Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to invite you this morning to take a journey through my life. I want to share my experience with you so you too, in a sense, can experience the transformation that took place in my life. From love to hatred, from freedom to oppression, from friendship to animosity, and in fact, to death. It all began in 1929, as you heard. I was born in Czechoslovakia, a freedom-loving country, in a totally integrated city. Well, I lived in a house with my father, my mother, my brother, my grandparents, with friends. In fact, living in a 3-generation household was one of the most marvelous things for a child. I figured out early in life that there are times that you want something, but your parents say no. And I learned early in life that there's no point of arguing. Best thing to do is to tell your grandfather how much you love him. And so I live in this wonderful place. There are 7,000 people in town, Jews and Catholics and Protestants, Russian Orthodox. I begin my serious life and I enter first grade in 1935. I look around the class and I see boys and girls, and suddenly I realize that there is one particular girl who's rather beautiful. And so I look at her for the first 3 months, and then I get the guts to go over and say hello. And ask her if it'd be okay if I walked with her home from school. And by the end of the first year, I carried her books. By the end of the second year, we did homework together. By the end of the, never mind. I was Jewish, she was Greek Orthodox. It mattered not to me. And so we are friends. I excel in sports. I'm a soccer player. I'm the best defensive player they've had in years. And so I live in this wonderful place. It's 1935. Life is beautiful for me. I did not know that they were building an Olympic stadium in 1935, that by 1936 the Olympics are taking place in Berlin, and the Jews are no longer allowed to participate. By 1938, Germany is acquiring a piece of Czechoslovakia, a small piece, as a price for no war. Appeasement. By 1939, Germany decides, enough of this, we'll take over Europe. By the spring of 1939, I live in a new country called Slovakia, and suddenly one day I get up in the morning in the summer and go out to play with my friends in the park. But I can't go in because there's a sign. Jews and dogs are forbidden to enter. By the end of 1939, when the winter is cold, with feet of snow, I wear my warm jacket made of sheepskin. I'm told I can no longer wear it because Jews are no longer allowed any luxurious clothing, and sheepskin is a luxury. And so I can no longer wear it. Not only that, I have to deliver it to the police department. By the spring of 1939, I'm still going to school. I'm walking with my girlfriend, who you remember. And one day she tells me, we can no longer walk together. I can no longer carry her books because her father told her, we don't want to be too friendly with Jews. It's not healthy. I'm dumped because I'm a Jew. And so it continues. By September of 1940, I get up in the morning to start school. The Beginning of the semester, I'm told I can't go in by the principal because I'm a Jew. I'm thrown out of school because I am a Jew. That afternoon, I decide I'm going to play soccer. I meet my friends in the field, and the coach tells me I can no longer play because Jews are no longer allowed to be part of a team that is Christian. It's not only children that are oppressed. The day I was thrown out of school, every single teacher in the whole country who was Jewish was fired. Jewish attorneys could no longer practice law. Jewish doctors lost privileges in hospitals. And finally, the last piece of economic oppression, Jews are no longer allowed to own a business. My father had a business. He produced railroad ties. 50, 80,000 each year, shipped all over Europe. And now he's going to lose it. And so my father approaches one of his very dear friends. Albert was his name. They've been friends for years, decades. Albert, Christian, help me. May I use your name in my business? We'll change the name, we'll change the stationery, we'll move the business over, and so it's going to become a Christian business and no one can touch it. And so Albert becomes a rescuer. 3 months go by and Albert comes to see my father and tells him, Joe, you and I are partners. I want half the profits. And 3 more months go by, marches into the office of my father with books under his hand. He says, I like the way you are running my business. I'm not going to fire you. Betrayed. By 1941, Europe is controlled by Germany. From north to south, from east to west, all the way to the Soviet Union. In June of 1941, Germany, though it had an agreement, a signed agreement with the Soviet Union, they attacked the Soviet Union deep into Russia. They're 80 miles from Moscow within a matter of weeks. And so they decide to begin the process of the elimination of the Jews of Europe. They organized and signed Einsatzgruppen, murder squads, whose job it is to go from city to city, from village to village, gather the Jews out into the forest and murder them en masse. From June of 1941 to December of 1941, 500,000 Jews were murdered by these squads using machine guns. But there are 11 million Jews in Europe, so it's going to take them 11 years to get rid of all the Jews, and that's not acceptable. And so they organized a conference in a place called Wannsee, right outside of Berlin. And there sit the brain power of Germany, the scientists, the engineers, the chemists, the transportation experts, and military leaders, who have a single agenda, a single point on the agenda: how to get rid of all the Jews of Europe inexpensively and quickly. Euphemistically, the final solution to the Jewish question. 1/3 of the group had PhDs, and my friends, in 90 minutes, they come up with a brilliant solution. We'll take all the Jews from Europe, from Norway to Greece, from Belgium into the Soviet Union. We'll bring them to 6 death camps. And all it's going to take is gas chambers and crematoria to convert the Jews from human beings to ashes. And so in the middle of the summer of 1942, there is a knock on every single Jewish home in my town. 2,000 Jews live there. 1,800 are picked up that one night, on a Friday night to be sure, on the Sabbath, gathered into the synagogue. The doors are locked. The synagogue is a lovely place because all it is, though, is just a sanctuary, and there's no running water. There are no bathrooms. And the Jews of my town are locked in there. There's no place to sit. 36 hours later, they march to the train station, cattle cars, and they disappear. Gone. I am not. I'm at home. my father, my brother. We're at home. 3 months go by, and one morning I'm in synagogue with my grandfather. We're walking out, and the policeman stands there, arrests my grandfather. Simultaneously, another policeman arrests my grandmother. We managed to get him out, but we must leave. And so, my friends, we crossed the border into Hungary, where the Jews are still at home. Although all the men between the ages of 16 and 60 are in slave labor force, attached to the army. They're cleaning tanks, building roads, fixing bridges, finding mines to make sure the tanks don't blow up. The families at home supply the food to the young men and middle-aged men attached to the army. But the families at home. It's the only country in Europe where the Jews are still at home. Relative safety for the moment, and we managed to get there. I'm living in a small village with my brother, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, hoping for the war to end because it's 1943. By 1943, the American army has occupied all of Italy. The Russian army has pushed back the German army into Poland and close to Romania. It's only a matter of time. The war will be over, and I'm still alive, living in a village in relative comfort. But in the spring of 1944, Germany and the Hungarian Nazis decide it's time for the final solution to the Jewish question in Hungary. It's the only country of Europe which still has a Jewish population. And so, my friends, in 53 days, 437,000 Jews are taken from their home to a cattle car to Auschwitz. And so after 3 days in the train, I arrive in Auschwitz. I jump off the train. It's nighttime. I look around. I see guards with submachine guns and dogs telling us to get out. Take nothing with you. In the distance, flames coming out of chimneys. I'm separated from my grandfather, my grandmother, my aunt, my 10-year-old cousin. They're marched to those buildings with the belching flames. They're told they're going to take a shower, but my friends, it's the gas chamber. Of the 4,000 people that arrived that night, this beautiful May evening of 1944, 24 hours later, 300 were still alive. My grandmother, my grandfather, my aunt, my 10-year-old cousin, ashes. For the crime they committed of being Jews. I'm assigned to work. A number is tattooed on my arm from early morning to late at night. On very little food. I'm trying to survive. I'm always hungry, I'm always tired. Unfortunately, there are other events that take place. On some evenings, we march back from work, and as we get to the camp, rather than being allowed to go into our building and get our ration of bread, we go into the shower. We got undressed, and as we're marching towards the shower, there'd be a doctor in uniform who look at you for an instant of time and say, "You're too pale." Takes the number of your arm, writes it down on a piece of paper. Next morning, a truck picks you up into the gas chamber. But I survived that, and my brother survives too. My parents are not there. I don't know where they are, because they were in Budapest. They were in another part of Hungary when I was taken away. And so I'm trying to survive. By January of 1945, the Russian army is 50 miles from Auschwitz. Momentarily, we're going to be rescued, but no, there's a death march for 3 days and 3 nights. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm cold. I tell my brother, and he said to me, "Don't be so physical all the time. Be more spiritual." I say, "What does that mean to me? I'm 15 years old. Say a prayer. Recite a psalm." He gave me courage. Finally, we wind up in a new camp called Buchenwald. Buchenwald was a concentration camp, not a death camp. But my friends, Buchenwald had no food to speak of. If you got a boiled potato for a whole day, that was a phenomenal day. A bowl of soup was a banquet. And so people died. One day my brother is taken away. He's gone. Never saw him again. I'm praying and hoping that I can hold on. I keep losing weight. I'm down to 75 pounds. I'm in a barracks with other kids. And the day after day, we're hoping and praying. And one day they begin to take people out again on a death march. I can't march. I can hardly drag myself. And so, my friends, I hide every day. One day I'm hiding under a building. A guard gets me, and I'm in front of the gate of Buchenwald. 10,000 Jews with guards ready to march us out on a death march. Only a miracle can save me. My friends, that day, as we're standing in front of the gate of Buchenwald, the siren goes off, an air raid. It lasted all day long, and I survived another day. Next morning, things are not moving so fast. By 11 o'clock, there wasn't a single solitary man in a German army uniform. The Nazis left, whether they be Hungarian or German or Lithuanian or Ukrainian, they left. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on April 11th, 1945, 2 American soldiers walked into our barracks. The Messiah has arrived, my friends. You may not know what he looks like. There are 2 of them. One is black, one is white. They looked at us and broke down. They could not believe that 15-year-olds can weigh 75 pounds. They fed us a huge amount of food. We pigged out. The first thing you must do, says the American commander, we must take care of the children. And so there I am, 15 years old, marched out with 500 other kids past the warehouse. We're told to go in, strip our clothes, put new clothing on. And so we do. The German army uniforms. We look terrific. Into a new building. Into this building we go. This is not part of the camp. These are not those shelves that we sleep on. This is a real building. 4 kids to each room, mattresses, linens, food, chocolate, and each one of us gets a carton of Camel cigarettes. You can imagine 4 15-year-olds in a room with no supervision and cigarettes. And so I light up a cigarette, and so does everyone else, all 4 of us. Light up the second cigarette, 15 minutes go by, and suddenly my head is spinning. My lips are burning. My tongue is bitter. I am shaking. I'm going to die. I survived Auschwitz, survived Buchenwald, and I'm going to die. I didn't. But I didn't throw the cigarettes away. I traded it for chocolate. I'm 15 years old. I'm alone. What do I do? I decided to go back. The war is over. Come back to the village from where I was taken, hoping that someone is alive. First person I see, I ask him, anybody from the Roth family survived? He says, yeah. I said, where? I run over, I opened up the door, and there's my mother. I say, hi, Mom. Very cool like. My mother fainted out of sheer joy. My parents survived. They were in Budapest. A few weeks before, the Jews of Budapest are being marched out on a death march or killed in the street and dumped into the Danube. My father gets very ill, goes into a coma. He has typhus. He's contagious. He's put into a hospital. Everyone gives up except one person, a Seventh-day Adventist Christian woman who decides Her mission in life is to bring this man, Joe Roth, back to life. So every night she's by his bedside, talks to him. Nothing. Night after night after night, making sure he doesn't get bed sores, make sure he gets enough oxygen and IVs flowing, nothing. And then finally one night as she's talking to him, looks at him and suddenly she sees his mouth is moving. And she hears sound. And in perfect Hungarian, how long have I been asleep? He survives, but they have no place to go. This wonderful Christian woman offers my parents a place to hide. Where? In her apartment. She lives there, one-bedroom apartment with her daughter, granddaughter. Husband is not at home. He's at Hungarian Nazi army fighting the Russians. My parents get there, they're hiding there, and of course they come and look for Jews, they don't find them. One night there is a knock on the door, and who comes home for 3 days? The husband, the Hungarian Nazi soldier. What do you do? Well, the wife decided to tell her husband about this strange, these wonderful two people who are not related to us, this sort of a friend of a friend. They're hiding here. And you mustn't tell anybody, because if you do, they'll be shot. And if you want to go to bed with me tonight, keep your big mouth shut. And the war is over. Nazism is defeated. All the anti-Jewish laws disappear. But my friends, anti-Semitism doesn't. Jews can't go back. They're in DP camps in Germany. The gates of the world are not open. Finally, in 1947, the United Nations decides to take this piece of ancient land where the Jews started 2,000 years ago and stay there, praying 3 times a day the return to Jerusalem. Half of what was once upon a time Judea is now given back to the Jewish people. Unfortunately, 5 Arab nations attack this country called Israel on the day of its birth, in May of 1948. And since then, it's been a constant struggle. In 1948 and in 1956, in 1967, in 1973, 1980, war after war after war to eliminate the Jewish people again. By miracle and God's help, they're surviving. But my friends, the enemy of the Jews is persistent. A multiple attack. One, to denigrate the Jews, to demonize them all over again. Their state is an apartheid state where equal rights are for all, where 22% of the student population of the University of Haifa is Muslim, with the population of Muslims in Israel down to 18%. And they call that apartheid. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. Yet, the world begins to denigrate the Jews again. And so they've infiltrated the American college campus. Thank God, not this one. And for that, I thank you. Professors are bought to turn the world against the Jewish people again. And in addition to which, there are countries. In 1979, Iran became an Islamic republic. And one of their major mission points is the destruction of the Jewish state. And for 30 years, they've been working on nuclear power. They deny the fact that they're doing it for purposes of creating weapons. No, it's for energy. So if you're going to use it for energy, do you really have to put the centrifuges under the ground? Do you really have to build plutonium plants whose only function is to create plutonium for hydrogen bombs? Sanctions were passed against this country to try and stop them from doing this, my friends, and they're working. And they realize that, and so they have launched the charm offensive. Their president came to the United States, to the UN, made a phone call to our president. Picks up the phone, he says, "Obama, baby, let's talk. We're friends. Stop with the sanctions. They're destroying our economy and trying to push us into the right direction. We can talk about this." And so we're so anxious to appease, as we did in 1938. Have we asked in the negotiation with Iran to stop building armaments to destroy the state of Israel? No. Have we told them they must destroy every single centrifuge? No. We told them, well, maybe you ought to get rid of those pieces of enriched uranium which are close to weapon grade. My friends, we must not fall into the same trap again. Iran is fundamentally a Nazi country whose objective is exactly the same as that of Germany. Wield influence over the Middle East, to make the whole Middle East Shiite. And once they have achieved that, the destruction of Israel, the little devil. Eventually, to make the whole world Shiite. To fly the Shari flag on top of the White House. Because the only true God is Allah. And all of us must worship Him. This is their aim. It's the same step-by-step process as Nazi Germany had. It took 55 million human beings' lives to stop Nazism. My friends, today, the issue is much more difficult. With nuclear weapons in the hands of Iran, none of us are safe. After all, at the present time, Iran is working in cooperation with North Korea to develop ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, to defend itself or to reach New York and Florida. Their aim is straightforward: the control of the world. But my friends, I want to tell you that I have hope. This will not happen. It will not happen because we have organizations like CUFI, Christians United for Israel. And you have a chapter here. There are Christians who have looked at this position of Iran and the anti-Semitic world and saying, no, Israel as a country, Israel as a people will survive. And we're going to make sure it does. Also, we will learn. We will understand the past. We'll make sure that we understand the step-by-step process. We understand the socio-political world. We will understand what countries stand for. We will read and listen, because when they say we're about to destroy the state of Israel, they don't mean we're going to have a soccer game. Their objective is real. So I come to you with a plea. Understand what's going on. Understand what happened to the Jewish people. Join CUFI and other organizations, churches and synagogues and colleges, and all mankind of goodwill to ensure that Iran, together with the propaganda that has infiltrated the American university system, will not succeed. I know I'm in good territory. And so I leave you with a message. Make sure you know. Make sure you help us fight to continue the democracy of Israel, the United States, and the whole world. Thank you very much.